All right, so we're live here on YouTube. This is Tony Fleming, and this is the Elite Psyche Mental Toughness Show. Um, and it's sponsored today by New Spira. And New Spira is a new company that has the detox coffee. It has the, oh God, going blank. It has the detox coffee, has the liquid vitamin, has the black mushroom coffee, and also those are the things we have. Sponsored by New Spirit, where better matters and every sip counts. All right, so let's go. Going live. I guess I just went blank as I went live though. But today, man, we got my man Josh and we got Ali on today, and they have an organization that I want these guys to talk about. And so let's jump right into it, man. And Josh or Ali, either one of you guys, tell us about your organization and really how you all got started.
You want me to take it, Josh, or you got?
Go ahead, Ali. Go ahead.
So basically, let me just tell you how we kind of got started. Josh, myself, another partner who couldn't make it today, who's actually the president of the organization, Naheem Way, uh, brother by the name of Logic. That's the name we called him, Logic, and another brother, Grimion, who's from Louisiana. We kind of just coalesced because we came out of a different movement before we created the organization. We were part of what's known as the Moorish movement, right? Some people might have heard of the Moorish Science Temple of America, etc. But we came from that particular space. And because of that, we gelled really well. And we used to just a lot of times be on the phone with each other, like just about every day for hours, just building on information. Because a lot of, a lot of what we did as part of the Moorish movement was research. And a big part of that research was of the Reconstruction period. So we came to realize the significance of the Reconstruction period, and we kind of just started building on that. And in terms of the research and that kind of in terms of that information, that's kind of what we gelled over, was the research of that, the research of the Moorish, the Moorish history. A lot of people might have heard about the Moors in Spain and how these particular Africans went into Spain and dominated for nearly 1,000 years. Kinds of culture there, science, mathematics, particularly algebra, things of that nature, architecture, etc., medicine, all of that kinds of things like that. And so we kind of just gelled over this information, and we just been building for years as brothers, as friends, and ultimately it just morphed into what we have today is the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. And that came by way of actually doing the research through the Moorish movement. Like I said, researching the Reconstruction period, which is very important part of the Moorish teachings, to be quite honest. And once we were researching that Reconstruction period, we just came to realize the significance of that time period, particularly as it relates to the freedmen, the people who were emancipated from slavery, and the descendants of the freedmen.
Okay. So I guess, Josh, I'll ask you this. What's so significant about freedmen and, American freedom?
Right.
American freedmen. I mean, you got freedmen, then you got American freedmen.
Yeah. So, I want to add on a little bit to Ali. So,
Okay.
Back in 2019, we, certain things started to happen that were of some significance. So you had presidential election that was happening this is when Trump was in office and he was trying to run for re-election the first time. And you had a lot of the Democratic nominees, and they were vying for votes, right? They were trying to see who was going to be the nominee on the Democratic Party. Well, if you look at the fact that the majority of the freedmen or black folks in America who, descendants of people that were emancipated from slavery, if you looked at that group, and you understand that we give the Democratic Party our vote more recently around about a 90% clip, men and women, then you understand that pretty much they're vying for our vote, even though it's a captured electorate. We'll get to that later. But so you started to see candidates have to add black agenda or to try to speak to issues that Black America is concerned with. And so we have a unique perspective on that, and we had a good understanding of what's needed, and we like transitioned over to one of the main issues, or probably the top issue that is of our concern, is reparations. So a lot of these candidates were having to answer questions based on that. So we started, and then once 2020 hit and the George Floyd situation broke out, then you started to see a huge interest, renewed interest towards like social justice issues. So we decided to, and a lot of people weren't working, right? A lot of people were paying attention online, and like the country kind of shut down during the pandemic. So we decided to use that time to start taking our conversations, which we've been having on a daily basis for years, and broadcasting them. And then from there, we started to influence the thinking of people across the country, and some people were in prominent positions, or some people were people that you wouldn't expect to not know as much. And so we said, you know what, we can have an impact, but we need to we need to be organized. So we started an organization. And then you see that when you look at the education of America, and you hear about the lost cause teachings, and you hear people say, "Oh, school books are whitewashed," and we've seen many examples of that. And you see that you had like that. That's a result of organizations in the past, such as the United Daughters of the Confederacy and the Sons of Confederate Veterans. So when we start researching into the freedmen information and the freedmen history, we said, well, we need an organization called the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, because too often issues in our community have divided us. Well, we can come together on certain like critical issues, and it's critical that we're united in these issues. Brother Ali, did you want to speak to the significance of the term freedman or American freedman?
Yeah. I hope I'm not jumping the gun, but the significance of this particular term, freedman, has to do with the constitutionality of its usage. It has to do with the legality of that particular terminology as it relates to our families, as it relates to emancipation, as it relates to the issue of remedial justice in the United States for our families stemming from the failed Reconstruction efforts, well, the overthrown Reconstruction efforts. If, for those who know, Reconstruction really didn't fail; it was overthrown. So the reason that we use this particular term, freedmen, and even more specifically American freedmen, is because of that. It's because we understood that the time had come for delineation and disaggregation for people who pay attention to the reparations advocacy spaces, whether that be ADOS conversations of foundational Black American conversations, or even any of the freedmen conversations. You'll see that one theme that remains the same throughout all of these conversations is the fact that we realize, or come to the place where we realize, that we must disaggregate Blackness, if you will, right? And so, and the reason for that is because as reparationists, we understand that we can't do reparations based on Blackness, but we need to be able to delineate and to outline who the proper beneficiaries of any federal reparations should or would be if it were to happen. And so we figured the best way to do that was by using this particular terminology, which the Supreme Court just recently ruled in part of the concurring opinion of Justice Thomas, that this term was a race neutral terminology. And by it being race neutral, we understand that it's something that would not trigger what's called strict scrutiny in the United States, which is the the highest form of judicial scrutiny that the court would give to any suspect classifications, such as racial classifications or even ethnic ones. And so we see this as a way of moving forward with the reparations conversation without invoking the unconstitutionality of racial legislation.
Right. And I get that and I understand that. But I do have a question about that, but I'm going to put a pin in and come back to it. I really want to jump into this question when y'all mention reparations, because, you know, not just Caucasians, even black folks, a lot of black folks say, hold on, man, that was, you asking for reparations, that was 1,000,000 years ago. We got to go from where we are now. Stop making excuses. Let's go ahead on and do it right now. We can just, you know, it's no more this, it's no more that. Why y'all keep bringing that up? What do you say to that, Josh?
Well, what I say to that is, you know, you got to understand that, you know, I think the people that say that don't really have a good understanding of the position that our group is in currently. When I say our group, I'm talking about the freedmen. Um, and it's due to the legacy of slavery and the badges and incidents of slavery. Um, and when I say badges and incidents, we're talking about things that stemmed from that system, um, which essentially was a system meant to have to keep us at the bottom and to exploit us, you know, for our labor, for everything else. Um, and the reality of the situation is we're a group that's largely wealthless. You may see a few celebrities and you may see some people that, you know, what you think have it going on. But the reality is the vast majority of the group is at the bottom. There's a study that came out from the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. They do the Consumer Finance Survey, and they did the post-COVID numbers. And what they found out was yes, you know, black wealth is increasing. However, the racial wealth gap, the gap between white wealth and black wealth is drastically increasing as well. So they talked about maybe like a decade or so ago, it was like 10 cents to a dollar. Now, post COVID, it's like 15 cents to a dollar. And so, you know, if you look at the fact that we are at the bottom of pretty much every metric that looks at well-being. If you look at the fact that, you know, you look at housing, you look at home ownership rates, you look at, you know, college graduation rates, you look at, you know, marriage rates, you know, family rates. You look at all of these metrics that measure well-being. We're pretty much at the bottom, and it's not just okay. What's up, brother Ibrahim? And it's not just something that you can fix by going. See, I think the misperception is that we haven't been trying to do for self. You know, we've been trying to do for self. But if you understand the numbers and you look at like one person that's at the top of the United States has, just like Jeff Bezos, he has more, his net worth is more than all black business combined in the whole United States. And when you think about that, then you say, like, what are you really saying? And I'll pass it back to you by saying that, why is it that when we think about what we need to do as far as a solution, we only talk about what we need to do on our own, like we're not U.S. citizens, like we're not people that are entitled to access resources from the government like other folks accessing resources. There is doing for self also includes politically doing for self, not just out here in free enterprise doing for self, you know, and I'm not trying to talk about other groups like that, but I see other groups doing that. You know, I'm gonna give you an example. You know, now this may seem strange, but and I don't have his name, and maybe I should mention his name, but there's a politician from Georgia. He's a congressman, Republican, and I was trying to figure out, like, why would a Republican congressman from Georgia be supporting a bill that seeks to remove the H-1B visa cap for for America, and it seeks to remove the like chain migration for families cap in America. How does a Republican from Georgia get to support that? Well, you find out that there's these things called political action committees, and people that have a lot of money, they put money into these PACs, and then those PACs end up forming. They end up sending money to the politicians. So other groups can come, and you look at the PACs, and it's like Hindus from Georgia and things like that. So it's not necessarily him. It's another group with their interest. Well, what they do is they take their group interest, they put money into it, they put it into a PAC, and then they fund the politician. Well, I mean, a lot of times our people don't really have money like that. So, and it's harder for us to have like a class of people to do that widespread.
Right. All right. So look, we got 45 minutes left. Y'all brothers got to stop talking like, you got to talk like you on a CNN show and they only got 30 seconds. You got to give me some hits, some sound bites that we can use, man. Because I know some of the other brothers that's probably watching this, they like, oh, they getting too deep for me. So you're going to have to get right to the meat and potatoes like you standing in the hood on the corner and you trying to explain to brothers what we got going on here. You know what I'm saying? So because somebody listening could say, okay, oh, that's good, but we need to put our foot down right now and start right here where we are. Okay, we behind, but we can catch up. Can we catch up if we just started right now from where we are? Can we catch up? Is it impossible unless we have the reparations?
You can't. I mean, like the studies have shown, it would take black wealth 228 years to catch up to white wealth if it stood still.
Okay, now explain that study. It says what? It will take what?
228 years for black wealth to catch white wealth at the current rate. I mean, there's other studies that have shown even other factors. That's an older study. A newer study that came out from McKinsey and Company earlier this year, it was talking about even like artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, they predict to in the next decade or so to start affecting the racial wealth gap, increasing the racial wealth gap about $47 billion per year. So, and that mainly comes because, people that have investments in companies that are using artificial intelligence are going to become more profitable. Artificial intelligence is going to replace a lot of the jobs that our people are aspiring to, or like step up jobs, or software development jobs, and many other jobs. And businesses who utilize artificial intelligence because they have the resources are going to have a strategic advantage, and they're going to become more efficient and profitable. And if our businesses are less capitalized, they're less likely to be able to implement large-scale artificial intelligence strategies. So they're not going to be as efficient. We're going to lose out. So
let me ask you this question, because this is something that just happened to me. I think yesterday I saw a post on Facebook that talked about the Breakfast Club, and they had the guy Michael Rubin on there. And I think he's a billionaire, right? That's the one who throws all the parties that, the rappers go to. And he was discussing, he was trying to justify Meek Mill. He was saying that Meek Mill's not gay because they were saying that he was gay, all the parties he come to and all that. And then he started discussing that he doesn't understand the hate culture between black people, that he didn't understand that, and he don't know why we hate each other like that and all that. And it got into a point where I think he said one of his favorite guys called him, and it had to be Jay-Z probably, and said that, you really can't speak on black culture, and let him know that. So he came back and apologized. So in the comment section, I said my problem with his statement was, okay, black hate, we got that. We hate each other, we go at each other. But why you don't talk about where it started from? Why you don't, if you're going to talk about that, why you won't go back to the root and say who started that? Who implemented the hate against each other? Who, and then that's when he came back, dudes came, man, that's just making excuses. When we going to, pull our bootstraps up and go for it? When we going to do that? You're just making excuses. I'm like, it's not an excuse. I mean, we got to talk about the root. How did it start? How did it start? And how is it going on now? Because it's still going on through the mass media. I'm like, we don't control all the switches and everything. They control that. So they have to, I believe that those same people or the family of those people who started, they got to come back and say, hey, this is what we need. We got to reverse engineer it. So what are your thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Ali.
Well, what did you say this guy's last name was?
I think it's Michael Rubin. He's a billionaire, and he does all these big parties every year, and all the hip hop rappers, all of them go to it and celebrate and have a good time. And you know, in some of the pictures, it looks kind of zesty, and so that's why they were saying that, you know, that Meek Mill, you know, and he was justifying it, saying Meek Mill is not gay and this and that, and but he's well known in that industry.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because tribalism, if you will, right, is something that exists in a lot of different cultures, a lot of different countries even. It's not something unique to the United States or to our particular group. So you take, for instance, the Hispanics, right? People don't really go at them in that same way. But growing up in New York, I had the opportunity to be around different kinds of Hispanic people, particularly Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. And for people who are around those two groups, know that they don't like each other, even though they all speak Spanish and they're all part of the so-called Hispanic ethnic group. They don't really get along like that. And I used to watch how Puerto Ricans and Dominicans would clash with each other over cultural differences, over skin complexion differences, over the fact that one group was in the United States longer than the other, and so they felt like the Dominicans felt the Puerto Ricans thought they were better than them because the Dominicans tended to be darker in complexion and things. So this kind of thing is not unique in terms of fighting within quote unquote ethnic groups, because if you think about the way they categorize Hispanics, all Hispanics are part of one ethnic group as far as the United States is concerned. Either you're Hispanic or you're not Hispanic. So they have fighting within the Hispanic group. Right now, you can look at white Democrats fighting against white Republicans. You had white Republicans trying to overthrow the results of an election, coming into the to the United States Capitol with Confederate flags. You know, so that whole thing.
Ali, that goes back to what I'm saying. Who controls the media and put that out? They still control it and make it seem like that we're the only one doing it. That's why I said if it's going to be reversed, they have to reverse it because they control all this stuff. And so that's when somebody come in, that's excuse, man, we need to start doing it. I'm like, we don't control the switches on all these large stations and all this stuff where they feed it through the news channels and all that kind of stuff. We don't have that. And so, you know, I'm still blown away that every local news channel, the first 10 minutes every day is black crime.
Yeah.
As if all black people are like that. I know that's 90% of us are not like that, hardworking individuals. But the 10% that are awful, that's bad, that's what they show every day. And that's what we look at. And so kids growing up watching that, that's why I said the responsibility has to be on the group of people who started it, who implemented it. They got to reverse engineer and talk more about it than us just doing it. You know, so that's why I asked about that, about when people say, well, just pull your boots up and let's go. Instead of reparations, we don't really need that. We can just, you know, it's and that's why I said talk in layman's terms when you're talking, because these guys, man, you know, they need to hear the knowledge that you all know.
Well, what I would like to do is implement a waiver program for all of the anti-reparationists to just sign the waiver, absolving themselves of any rights to any claims, to any reparations claim. Just get out the conversation. To me, the easiest thing would be to just get out of the conversation. If you don't feel like you or your family, if you're authorized to speak on behalf of your family like that, because a lot of these dudes just be talking when they talking this stuff. Their families may feel a whole different kind of way than they feel. But if you representing your family, or at the very least yourself, sign the waiver and get out of the conversation. Let the people who are actually interested in justice pursue that form of justice, and you just stay out of it. To me, that would be the easiest thing. We need a waiver program to get them up out of the conversation.
You got a point there, man. You got a point. What do you say, Josh?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, get them up out of the conversation. But you know, why is it that you don't think that you? Why is it we don't think we need that? Like, essentially, you know, we have to understand we need to understand what reparations is. Reparations is repairing the damage that was done through generations of oppression at the hands of the federal government. And, you know, private actors, we could say private actors too, but the federal government allowed those private actors to get away with that institution. And the federal government itself instituted policy that caused generational failure in our communities. Like, I mean, the most recent one we saw was the system of mass incarceration and the war on drugs. That the result of that is that 1 out of 3 of black males have a felony on their record. So essentially, 33% of black men walking around that you see every day, including some people who may be listening to this program, are back in Jim Crow, where they can't vote, they can't access certain you know, public resources, they can't own firearms, they can't. It's a lot of stuff they can't do when you got that F on your record, you know. And I know, I mean, personally, you know, in Virginia especially, and we have a governor that, and I don't want to get into Virginia politics, but in Virginia we have a governor and the laws of Virginia that essentially he wants to. He has made it to where you can't even get your rights restored without him giving an approval. That's it. The only way you can get your rights restored if you ask him and he says yes. So what that's going to equate to is black folks that want to vote that may have a felony record. He can just say no because they know chances are you're not going to vote for him as a Republican.
Okay. So again, how you just said that and made that statement clear, I can bet you 90% of the masses don't even know that. How do we get this message out? Like, and because they only listen to sound bites. How do we get this out? Because they're not going to go and research and study this information that you all know. And if we're trying to get this out so people can know more, how do we get it out? You know, it used to be where it came out in rap songs. They stopped that. So how do we get this message out that everything that's going on out here that, you know, literally I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of things out here that I don't know about that, you know, I talk to my sister sometimes about it and she'll say it and I'll be like, come on. Because even with the election coming up, so we can talk about that too. Even with that, you know, when Trump says he's done more for black folks than Abe Lincoln. I mean, nobody has even questioned him on that. Nobody's even stopped and say, okay, what is it? Is that true? Is he the only person that's done more for black folks than since Abe Lincoln? I'm like, it's almost like he been saying that, like, you know, how Hitler just spreads a message. And so you got people saying that. I got some of my friends saying that. Man, Trump has done more for black folks than. I'm like, really? Tell me what did he do that a lot of other presidents didn't do? And what, I mean, okay, are you in agreement with that statement?
No.
Okay,
No.
So I'm saying,
No.
so how do you combat stuff like that when he has
right.
the microphone? You know,
you're right. I mean, it's hard because you got a media machine that's pumping out content 24 hours a day, and that's programming the minds and, you know, pretty much shaping the conversation that everybody's having. I'd say that, you know, one of the things that we're doing as an organization is we're trying to find, like, who is willing to fight out here, you know, and the people that are willing to fight, we're supporting them and arming them with information that they can affect the community with, and that they can go to their lawmakers and start putting some of the stuff into action. And so, you know, part of it is if you're in some locale and you have a mayor and you popularly elected them, or our community has, you know, contributed to the votes to getting them in office, what are we getting in exchange for that? Like, what are we getting back for our vote? And so if they are not going to push the line in this what we're talking about, educating us to dispel the miseducation,
Yeah.
then they're not doing their job, and we're not. But if we're not making them have to do that, we have to put pressure on the people, because the local news, the local government, they can issue proclamations. The local government can change legislation. They can implement certain policies and laws. So what happens is now you make the government, which has large amounts of resources, be your public education arm. And that's what we've seen in certain locales, and we're pushing these initiatives forward. So that's one way. But I wanted to talk about something else. Like what you're trying to ask is, how do we get the power to change the things in our community? And the media part of our group, our YouTube program is called Be the Power. So it's like, don't fight the power, become the power, and then you have enough power to make a change.
Okay.
And so how do we become empowered? Really, like, we don't have the economic power. People try to say, oh well, if you have black wealth, if it's his own country, it'd be if you take the black GDP, you have the ninth largest country in the world.
Country, right.
But that's crazy, because we have to spend US dollars in America. We can't go and spend money in Portugal, in Guatemala, or whatever. We can't go spend our money in Naira or in rupees or whatever. We have to spend our dollars in America, and America is an expensive country. And so when we look at our spending, actually studies have shown that black folks, with controlling for levels of income, black folks spend less money than white folks. People don't know that, because again, we've been miseducated. So how do we become the power? The only way, since we don't have economic power, what is the one thing that politicians now are trying to get from us? Is it our money? No, because they know we don't have any. It is our vote. So that is the power that we have. The problem is our vote is so fractionalized across the country. You have black folks living in California, and I think they're like 5% up there. What percentage are they up there in New York, Ali?
It's not even half.
Okay.
Not even half.
But we're only 13% in the country. Anyway.
In the country, right? But what's the percentage in Georgia? It's like 20 some percent.
Is it that? I thought it was more than that. Oh, you're talking about the state of Georgia.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about Atlanta. Okay, yeah, you're right. I got you.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, but it used to be different, right? It used to be, so right now it's like 45% of the black population is living outside of the South, and 55 population is in the South. But it used to be like 90-something% is in the South, right? Because that's we were brought to America to work on plantations, and then as we got freedom, and as people as the country expanded, and then we dealt with terrorism and land theft and Ku Klux Klan and no opportunity sharecropping and all kind of stuff, Jim Crow repression. We escaped that and we went to the north. That was called the Great Migration. And the result of that is we lost political power in the South. Well, we never could actualize that political power because of Jim Crow, but because we couldn't vote, they wouldn't let us vote. But what would happen if those people move back, which is already happening? And I'm sure you can see Atlanta is getting more and more crowded, right? People move back to the South. Because see, what people don't understand is, how do you get a Bernie Sanders in Vermont? Bernie Sanders from New York, he's from Brooklyn. Right. How do you get a hippie, progressive?
But he went there intentionally because of what, the count?
Yes, because what happened was they figured out, hey, we can't do politics is like warfare without bloodshed. So what they said was, let's go and get the numbers and take a bunch of those people, the hippies. They moved out of the northeastern states and wherever, and they moved to Vermont because it was a low population. They got the majority population, and then they control the vote. They put governors and senators, and they pumping people to Congress with their political ideology, to inflict the will of their people in Congress. And what I'm saying is, you got Asian folks, you got Latinos, you got all the other kind of folks that have come to the United States in large numbers, And it's a balkanization, to use the term of Brother Charles Blow. He wrote this book called The Devil You Know. You pick that up, that's another jewel. But it's a balkanization of America, and to where it's going to be a certain states is going to be majority Latino, certain states is going to be majority Asian, and a bunch of other places are going to be white.
What's the name of the book?
The Devil You Know by Charles
Okay.
Blow.
Okay, go ahead.
And what's going to happen is, like I said, Latinos going to have senators and Congress folks and state representation in government. Their issues are going to be carried out Capitol Hill and locally. And what we're seeing is the loss of Black political power locally in all these places. We also seeing economic power loss. But the solution to that is, if you think about like a hand, right? If you just like you get in a fight and you got an open hand and you kind of hitting people with your finger or whatever. That's not how you fight. You close your fist and ball it up because it's stronger. So what we're talking about is like you have to take all these fingers, like this finger is Chicago, this finger is New York and LA and Philly and Dallas or whatever.
Houston.
No, you need to bring them people back to the South, and you need to have a controlled majority South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. And now you can control Congress. You can have popularly elected senators that are freedmen, that are carrying out the freedmen agenda. You can have governors. So now you can actually change the power dynamics in your state. You can stop some of the atrocities like Cancer Alley in Louisiana, where Loudoun County, Alabama, where they got hookworms. Some of the places where our water is polluted. You can stop the exploitation on people. You can now say, okay, we're gonna push a reparations bill, or if y'all don't include and have a hearing on this reparations bill, we're not going to sign on to any of this other legislation y'all pushing. And that will be what we say, but we can't do out of that. We can't do any of that. We will be powerlessness now with this new America if we don't do that. We will never have political power.
So let's go back to my point. How do you get this message across to the masses, the voters, so they can understand it in layman terms? Because what I'm hearing from you guys, it needs to be a message, almost like, how we talk about elevator speech. How can you get that out that a person can really grab it and understand? Because, the truth is this: people are working all day, every day. They got 2 jobs. They coming home. They tired. They got to get on the internet, so they got to get on social media. They got to watch their TV shows. How can they learn all this in the midst of that? You know what I'm saying? How do you? It's almost like this. I was thinking the other day when they had the local elections in Atlanta. I'm thinking, the people that's running, I don't know half their ideas and policies and the things that they're thinking about. I don't have a clue about it. How do I get that information where I can actually eat it? It's not like a giant bite that I got to take to where I can get it and learn it and know, okay, and now I'm talking with some common sense when I get ready to vote for somebody, instead of just hitting the straight Democratic or, however we do it now. How do you get that? Because, people are, go ahead, Ali.
It's tough because you have so many opposing forces. And even right now, you have the fracturing. You can see a fracturing in Black America over the presidential issue, over whether or not the Democratic nominee is Black. Whether or not a woman is qualified to hold this office, whether this particular woman is qualified. And you can see within the Black group a fracturing. You've already been dealing with a gender divide amongst Black people as it is. And so now you have all of these different elements. Even within the reparation space, you have fracture, right? You have a fracture between older folks who are in the reparation space versus younger people who are in the reparation space, because they don't see eye to eye on the approach. Older folks want reparations to be for Black people. Younger people want reparations to be for the actual descendants of the emancipated people in the United States. And so there's a disagreement there, and I think the best way to do it to get the information out is through social media. Right, what we've been doing is using the social media platforms, the various ones, particularly YouTube, X. We do a lot of stuff on X because generally that's where your political conversations are on X. We also you can utilize TikTok, you can use Instagram. A lot of the young people are in those spaces, Instagram or TikTok, so you can do videos, especially short videos on TikTok,
Right.
to get bite-sized pieces of information out to them.
Right. You got to do that. You got to have a little music behind it because
Yeah.
we're trying to get the message across. And if that's how people eat today, then that's how we got to feed them. But I'm saying if we're not doing that,
Yeah.
you just don't know. You just out here and it's like I mean, they just saying things like, for example, the major message that a lot of black folks are saying out here about Miss Harris is that she done locked up way more black people. She done got them all in jail. And if it wasn't for her, you wouldn't have all these going. It's like she hadn't done anything else productive. Like she didn't do anything else. And here's the thing. I don't know. Where is the list of things in sound bites? Where are those things that I need to know? For example, I used to tell my sister all the time, I said, and this was Biden was, I said, if he don't get a list of things and put them out here and run them home, because if not, you're going to think that he hadn't done anything. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure he's done something, like even with Obama. They kept saying Obama was the worst president. He never do anything. And I think Obama is the one who brought insurance to most people, right? Because most people wouldn't even have insurance now if it wasn't for him doing that. But but did he do any other thing? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's rough out here. I'm just trying to figure out how you narrow it down to where we can really get the message.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things is like we need a credible platform that rises above everything else. And I mean that's what we've been trying to do with our program, but I mean, lack of reach, lack of funding, lack of understanding, marketing, whatever.
That goes back to again why you're talking reparations. That's why we need that.
I mean, what network do we own? I mean, you can see like even Bob Johnson sold BET. I mean, Byron Allen, he had his lawsuit because Charter and Comcast were, basically locking his network out. He tried to start Black News Channel. That didn't work. And this is nobody's trying to. This is a business, so it's no charity. The competition is not trying to help you out. The opposition is not trying to let you win and let you catch up and eat into their wealth. I'll just take a quote from a great philosopher that said, "It's not what people hear, is what they keep hearing. What they keep hearing, what they keep hearing." That's not what you're saying. What you keep saying, what you keep saying, and sometimes you got to say the same thing in 1,000 different ways. I don't know if you might be familiar with that guy.
Yeah, I know that guy.
But and what we hope, and part of our mission is in doing education, is that we can affect like other people who get inspired by the message, and then use their expertise, their energy, their resources, if they want to share resources, to be the conduit that says that message in a different way that somebody else can relate to and that can understand. And that has to duplicate and replicate across society and our group and because I don't see another way. I mean,
right. And I believe you guys' message has to be taught right, but it's got to be in simple form where we can grab it. You got 10 little sound bites of some of the stuff we just talked about well, how did this happen? And then boom, the answer on there. Then we pump that out. And it's got to be somewhere to get it started, because if you think that people are going to sit still and listen to long messages, they're not. They've been training us on soundbite society. And that's all they feeding us. That like the social media has killed us reading books, because they 3-4 lines, that's what you're gonna read, and all this kind of stuff. So but it's still no reason to lay down and not fight back. But I just believe that the fight has to be the way people eat these days. We can't change them from doing it that way. That's how they eat. They get their messages like that. They get it on TikTok. They get it through. Because, I mean, besides that, anything else the media controls. So they put it out there the way they want to put it out, and they put it out. The biggest thing that bothers me the most is what I said initially, is that when you turn on that 5 o'clock news in every city, in every state, because every place I used to travel, I used to go clicking and see, first 10 minutes is us doing some kind of crime.
Right.
And you got babies growing up watching that. So now they're thinking that's who we are.
Right.
And
Right.
sometimes, I see people, I'll be on the elevator, they get on and they're afraid. I'm like, damn, you know what I'm saying? But then I think, you've been watching the news every day for 30, 40 years. So you think I'm a bad guy.
Right.
You've
been watching the news. You've been listening to the music. You've been, all that kind of stuff.
All of that. So when people say, well, Tony, we got Oprah, we got Jay-Z, we got 10 billionaires in this country. Why can't they all come together and just make some things happen?
They can. You see that right now, even with 50 Cent is not considered a billionaire,
right?
But he's pretty close to one, and you see the work that he's doing. Tyler Perry does great work in terms of his ability to employ Black folks. I think that's one of the goals of 50 Cent is to be able to employ people down there in Shreveport to create an economy.
But Ali, what about their messages, though? I just talked about this last night with my guy Lewis for about 30, 40 minutes. Maybe about an hour on the phone. What about their messages? Because it bothers me that 50 Cent's messages are all crack dealers.
Yeah.
They sell in every TV show that he comes out with is about crack dealers. Every, what's that channel that Rupert Murdoch owns?
Fox News.
No.
Fox.
No, the one that feeding all the Tubi. Man, you go to Tubi. I did that the other night just to see. And I went across 20 different movies. And the first 20 movies was all about crack dealers in Atlanta, crack dealers in Chicago, crack dealers and I'm talking about movies, literally movies. And the plot of the movie is about Black drug folks. And we are watching that because we just want to see some Black people on TV. You know what I'm saying? So then we watching it, and the next thing you know, it's programming the mind. It's feeding the mind. I'm like, bro, what do we do? Because if 50 has and Tyler Perry, you know what kind of stuff he's producing. And I respect them, man. I really do, because of what they did to come up in this society. But what point do you get through to where you can literally put some good stuff out without somebody behind you saying, I mean, don't you think that Tyler has that much money now? 50 has that much money now to do that? Or is it still somebody behind him?
It's going to always be, until we control the distribution.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The ability to be able to distribute and the places to receive those pieces of distributed materials, you're going to still be subject to what other people want. Like, so we can want to do a Wakanda film, but you have to have somebody who owns the distribution channels as well as the movie houses that are going to play those things, or the streaming platforms like Tubi, like Netflix, like Hulu, right? We don't own any of those things. And so still, you're going to have to bargain with the devil, so to speak. You're going to have to do the things that they feel like they need you to do in order to make the deal something that they will be willing to invest in. And I know for a fact that that's a part of the reason why certain things don't get done, is because you're not going to be able to get everything greenlit. All of the things that we wanted, like, for instance, Michael Jai White years ago was trying to do a film called The Moor. And this was about a Black man, right? A Moor who was a martial artist, and he was whatever he was supposed to be doing, but he was never able to get the film finished, and he was never able to get the film distributed for the obvious reasons, because white people don't want us associating ourselves with anything Moorish because of the greatness of what the Moors contributed to society. So it's like, no, that's not you, you guys. You guys are Negroes. You're not Moors. Don't try to connect yourselves to that history. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? So you are the drug dealers of society. This the kind of film you make. So you make power. You can do a power universe where there's a whole universe of drug dealing black people. We'll help you with that. But don't be
Right.
trying to act like you're the Moors and all of this kind
Right.
of stuff
That's the
like
point I'm making. So,
that. Yeah.
what's the idea? I mean, what's the possibility, Josh, of us truly getting reparations, knowing that we could do that if we got it, knowing that we can. So why would they want to do that? First of all, Josh, when you go back and look at this video and see how you were looking a few minutes ago, it was almost like you were sitting. You know that video with Jay-Z and all them guys behind them hollering Michael Jackson, and they was like, that's when Jay-Z said, "I'm out of here. I ain't gonna be." That's the look you. That's the look you have on your face, like, what we gonna do? So what's the likelihood of reparations, man? When you know, like Ali said, we got that money. You know what we could do with that money? We could change a lot of things.
Yeah. I mean, again, if I would be honest, like, until we can get the power in Congress let me just give you a little bit of what reparations is about, how it will happen. So numerous people have tried to do reparations through the courts. The courts have found that, statute of limitations or whatever, they've all deemed that something that the court was an improper venue for that. That should have
lack
been
of lack of standing.
yeah.
It raises a political question, so it needs to be handled by the executive and the legislative branches.
Right. And so when you're talking about repair, the number one, like, it's many models out here that people use to try to calculate, well, how much should reparations be? Because when we say reparations, that's just some type of number that we don't even understand how to quantify. But the model it makes the most sense to us, that we've been rolling with as a baseline, as a starting point for any program of reparative justice, should be closing the gap of wealth between Black folks and white folks in America. Now, let me just add a little bit. The reason why we use the term freedmen, and we've been advocates for that, is because even amongst the Black population, everybody that's Black that will be considered racially Black is not coming from the freedman class. There's a large group of people that came to America more recently, and that also classifies Black America based on America's standards, but those people wouldn't qualify for such a program. So to be recipient of the benefits, those benefits should go to the people whose families endured those harms throughout the years. People that picked cotton on the plantation, the people who was denied housing, the people who couldn't get the GI Bill, the people who didn't get the Homestead Acts, which is responsible for, I think, 1 out of every 10 white people, 25% of white Americans can trace their wealth building origins to the Homestead Act, something like that. So that's the group of people. So reparations, okay, that's a political issue, and that has to go through the Congress. So in order to get that to happen, you have to get that law passed through Congress, because Congress controls the power of the purse. And we've deemed that closing the wealth gap should be the baseline. Now, that wealth gap, if you go and look at the numbers, like I said, it's increased. But I want to say the average white household has a net worth of something like, I think it's like 1.3 million. And I think the average Black household has something like 224,000. So essentially, we're talking about like $1 million 1.1 million or something like that in 2022 dollars, and so per household. So when you if we were to do that at a baseline, that would dramatically change the dynamics. And I don't want to get in, or if you want to, we can. But regardless of how you think, oh, if you just give folks that money, they're gonna spend it. Look, the vast majority of our people are gonna go and invest and get a home or pay their debts off. They're gonna go and pay their student loans off. They're gonna go and invest in some stocks, and they're gonna get equity in America. And essentially, we have been locked out of the widespread capability of getting equity in America. But we're not going to ever get to do that.
Think about this when you just said that, and I believe you that the vast majority will. But if you look at it, and people looking at it from their view and eyes, they're gonna think, because first of all, the media has us looking like the vast majority of us just sell crack, smoke dope, and so that's how we thinking that those are the ones gonna get the money. But remember, I said that 90% of Black people are hardworking. They're out here trying to make it happen. And I know if we got the money, that's where it would go. But if you look at it, that's not how it's seen out here. No. It's seen like, go ahead, Ali.
During COVID, right? When there was an influx, an infusion of money into the economy, right? Through the stimulus checks, the unemployment, supplemental payments, etc., right? There's a New York Times article that talks about the fact that Black people created the most startups at that time period because of that money. So what that did was it showed that what the people really want to do is work for themselves. They really want to be entrepreneurs. That spirit actually picked up because they thought between the PPP loans, the unemployment insurance money, plus the supplements, plus the stimulus checks, that they would be able to start businesses that will be viable to sustain them and their families using that particular money at that time period. There's a whole article speaking about that. Our people started the most businesses during the time of COVID than anybody else. Now, they also wind up failing more than anybody else because they oftentimes don't have the access to the capital to maintain them as viable businesses. But that entrepreneur spirit was there, and that to me was a demonstration of what would probably happen with reparations coming to our families. It would be the same thing. It just maybe would give them enough money to keep the businesses viable and to actually move forward with success.
Gotcha, man. Look, we got 3 minutes left. I hate this. We got to come back and do this. We need to do this once a month or something where we can at least get on here and talk again, and you have some more of your guys on here. Give me 1 minute, Josh, and Ali, you give me 1 minute of what you think this political campaign need to be about and what people should be talking about, and then tell us how people can reach you all.
Well, first, you talking about what you talking about, the ongoing presidential campaign? Oh, okay. All right. So here's what I'll say. Again, we give the Democratic Party 90% of our vote, or our vote at a 90% clip. And it's kind of taken for granted. Not kind of, it actually is taken for granted. What are we getting in exchange? What we often are told is shut up and vote because at least you don't get Trump or Republicans. That I'd say that's not good enough. And we shouldn't accept that. If you look at Arab Americans, they said their main issue was, what is your position on Israel and Palestine? And because they weren't satisfied with what the party was giving them, they gave their vote to the Green Party, or they voted uncommitted in many places. What I say is, for this election and many others, just because they haven't talked about an agenda, we shouldn't give blind support. We should still be asking for an agenda. We should still be asking for the party to add our issues, the issues that are critical to our community, to their platform, because we're at the bottom of the bottom at every metric of well-being. And for them to know that and see that and not aggressively pursue an agenda that rectifies it, knowing our history in America and our allegiance to the Democratic Party, That's a grievous, terrible injustice, and it should be embarrassing, and it should be seen as a major insult. Same to be said of the other side of the party. And as far as an organization, you can watch us Be the Power on YouTube, and you can go to usadof.org. You can donate, or you can read about our agenda there.
Okay. About you, Ali?
Well, I think this election should be about us and our families, and I think that we shouldn't be afraid to make it that. Just like Josh was saying, with the Arab Americans did, they were very much issue driven. The problem that we've been seeing from the Democrats, like Josh said, is that they want us to accept whatever it is that's the party platform as it is without having any demands. But the fact of the matter is that's not good enough for us at this point in time. It's time to elevate. It's time for us to make our families the number one focus. And I mean by families, I'm talking about the American Freedmen family specifically. So what we've done with our organization was we created a draft executive order and actually submitted it to the Biden-Harris administration, urging them to create a commission on reparations for the American freedmen families in the United States. This is something that we also created a petition for. So for the people who want to support this idea of reparative justice, specifically for our families, you can show your support by going to usadof.org and signing the petition, which you'll find on the main page of the website. You just scroll down, you'll see the link to the petition there. We are urging the Biden-Harris administration and the Harris administration, if there is one to follow, to create a reparations commission specifically for the Freedmen families, where they will study the issue of reparative justice and come up with appropriate remedies and recommendations for Congress to implement the proper legislation to actualize those remedies. So that's what we're doing right now, and that's what this election should be about for us.
Well, man, look, I appreciate you guys, and again, if we can get together next month or 2 months from now and really talk about it. I know the election is coming up, maybe next month, where we can talk. I know you got some more guys that missed it, and if they want to get on and be able to talk about it, I would love for that to happen, man. But I appreciate you guys. We're signing out today. Remember, make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and like and leave some comments on what you heard, in the comment section. Don't just watch this like I think my group of people watch it like they watching I Love Lucy or something. Oh, that was good. Let me change the channel. No, get in the comment section and say something, whether it's good or bad or ugly, whatever. This is not just a TV show to watch. This is where we want you to comment and give your opinion and your thoughts on what we just talked about. Again, appreciate it, man. We'll see you guys next time on Elite Psyche, the Mental Toughness Show.